In this episode of Castoshi, I speak to Mark Miller of LabelCoin, a revolutionary song exchange which allows fans to invest in songs. LabelCoin are doing this by building a smart contract-powered music sharing platform which divides song revenue into shares instead of the all-or-nothing approach of NFTs. We also talk about the wider music industry and where things are going. Stay tuned for this great episode. Welcome to another episode of Castoshi, and today we have Mark Miller of LabelCoin. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Zubair. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Now, could you tell us the quick spiel about what LabelCoin does?
Yeah, most simply, we're basically building Robin Hood for music. So our mission is to stamp out artistic poverty and doing that by making songs investable to the average fan. So imagine that you can just open up an app and go see all the songs in it, just like you would into Spotify or some space like that. And you can, instead of just listening to it, you can actually purchase those songs, sell them, trade them within the app, and earn the royalties. So every time that an artist is, whenever you hear a song on Spotify and Apple Music, etc., the artist is getting paid a small amount. And so we're allowing the artist to sell those royalties to fans so that now when people listen on Spotify to that artist, the fans get paid.
Oh, I like it. Okay. So has anyone else tried this so far?
There's been a few people trying to solve it, not the way that we're doing it. And they're primarily doing it as music NFTs, which we have some NFT integration coming next year in a different capacity, but we're doing it a different way for multiple reasons. And I can dive in deeper to that too, but the most notable would probably be Royal, DJ Blau here, possibly Opulus in Europe. And there's a few others that are doing some neat stuff, but there are a lot of things that make what we're doing quite a bit different.
Okay. So before we dive into that, could you tell me how you started here, or were you just like born knowing that you were going to do LabelCoin, or were you born or made? Like, tell us your
Well, back
history
when I
and
was three,
how your history
yeah.
led up to what you're doing and your interest and your why and how that led to the founding of LabelCoin.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's probably one of the most important parts, right? So I've been in the music industry for almost 20 years now, which is crazy. And the first 10 of that, I was an artist. So I started out as a singer-songwriter, playing small venues and house shows and those types of things. And then, 5 years in, I met my wife, and she told me on our honeymoon that she wanted to quit her job and join me in music full time. I said, okay, that's awesome. A, and B, we need a new business plan. And because we're definitely not earning enough to raise a family long term. And so we worked on it. We found another college market, started finding our way of touring universities, especially in colleges, and still doing some small venue things to the US, and kind of kept growing and building from there. By the end of that in 2015, we finally were making $120,000 a year from our music, from touring. And like, hey, this is amazing. This is working. This is making sense. We're able to buy a townhome in Nashville, where we just moved there, and like, this is great. But then when you break that down, though, Zubair, is like the first $40,000 of that was expenses. So really we're making $80,000 a year. And then you split it between my wife and I, who are both working full time, and more than full time, to be honest, from the music. That's $40,000 a year. And that's basically our salary 10 years into our career. And at that point, we are literally in the top 2% of the industry, which is insane, right?
So can I ask you a question here then?
Yeah.
When you say you're making money from music, because I've been trying to learn how it works, and I've heard this thing that people lose money on making music to break even on concerts to make money on t-shirts. Is this true? Is this correct?
In a nutshell, yes. I mean, because it is expensive.
I know something amazing.
Yeah, no, you're great. So I mean, when I started, CD sales were still a big thing, and so you still had your producer was expensive, right? I mean, most people are paying anywhere from.
Could you just imagine? Actually, no, I would say I guess uneducated, but it's actually me. Could you tell me what a producer does?
Oh, sure. So a producer is the one that you bring your raw song to, and you're like, hey, here's my song, make it sound great. And so he does the recording. He brings in the other instruments, the other people that the bass and the drums and cello or whatever you're wanting to have on that track. And so he's the one that does the recording. He might even be the one that mixes it, makes it sound great in the end. But generally speaking, to produce, to make a song, to record it is going to cost you, for most people, anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000 per song.
So the producer takes a lot of that money.
Right. And it takes a lot of time. So I mean, that's a fair wage for sure. But as an artist, you got to put that out up front. And then in the old days, when you had to get CDs printed too, then of course you're paying for that. And so easily, like our last album that we did cost us around $25,000 to produce. And so then that was part of that $40,000 of expenses that I mentioned. And because it definitely adds up. And so when you want to keep releasing new music, that's expensive. And so, over the past, streaming definitely changed the game for us. Initially, it was very negative. Of course, Napster was the first where it was all free streaming and we weren't getting paid a thing for it. And then all of a sudden the CD sales, which had been good, people would buy CDs at every show, and that crashed down. So you went from making, an extra 10 to 15 bucks per fan to, nothing off your music, only making it off of the other merch, like t-shirts.
Can I but when Napster was here, didn't that increase your fan base?
That's the argument, right? But
not true.
Not really. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I mean, there could have been a little bit of anecdotal evidence to that, but overall, no. But it did shift the industry, and I mean, I'm not here to complain about Napster by any means. You take what you're given and you work with, you find a new way forward. And that's what happened with streaming. Spotify jumped in, and at first people were pretty upset because, wow, we're making pennies and versus, what we were earning off of this. But it started to shift, so 2014 was kind of our lowest point in the music industry. We're like, oh man, it's all kind of doom and gloom. And it's been starting to shift around the other way. Like Spotify, for example, and they're just one of many, many, many people, but they make up about 31% of digital streaming royalties of the money that gets paid whenever someone listens to a song. And in 2020, they paid out over $5 billion. 2021, last year, over $7 billion to creators, and that number just keeps growing. And Goldman Sachs, one of the big banks here, of course, and globally, they project that by 2030, the music industry will be making $150 billion a year. Which is quite a bit more than where we're at now. So, and a lot of that is due to what's happening in digital streaming.
Is that spread between a lot more people though?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there are every day almost 60,000 songs are uploaded to Spotify.
Oh wow!
So that comes out to about 22 million songs a year.
Oh wow!
So there are a lot of people, right? But there's also a lot of people that just like, hey, I just wrote this song on my guitar and recorded it on my iPhone and threw it up on Spotify. It's not hard to get your songs on Spotify. But there's a lot of people that are and should be able to make a living because they're working daily at, this is their job. This is what they show up to. This is what they're made to do. And it impacts a lot of people. And there are a lot of those songs too. Like, so there are over 1.75 million songs with 200,000 or more streams. That's significant. That's a lot of people listening to those songs. So there's a lot, but then there's also a lot of room for a lot of people to succeed.
Okay. So I would still guess though, because I've heard that people like, I'm not sure if it's Taylor Swift or other people have complained about Spotify saying they make hardly anything. So are you saying that has changed and smaller artists are making a little bit of money, or?
And it's still like one of your tactics, right? Like some artists if you have to release consistently. If you're just gonna hope to put up 3 songs and live off that, that's not going to happen. But if you release songs, monthly or every other month, and you keep doing that consistently, then you actually build up quite a bit of income, especially if it's good, and you're doing other things in your career. You're playing shows, or you're, working on your YouTube or being online, TikTok, building up those different avenues. Then that's where that grows. So the hardest part for most artists is they can't stick it out. that 3 to 5 year period traditionally where you have to keep going until you finally make that the breaking point where you make enough money to keep going. Most people quit before they get to that point. And so what we're doing is we're taking those 10 years basically of income of that catalog of what will this song potentially earn over 10 years. And we try to value that through a lot of different formulas in our algorithm. And we bring that forward and we say, okay, fans can invest in that, because a fan, right now they might be supporting an artist just like via Kickstarter or Patreon, which is just out of the kindness of their hearts, but what if a fan can actually, they might be thrilled to make a 10% return on that investment every year, where an artist would be challenging. And so that really adds up for the artist to where now all of a sudden they can make a living wage. Because if you have 200,000 spins a year, which I mentioned is 1.75 million songs currently have that or have that many spins, you could value that song pretty easily around $20,000. And so an artist, if they sell half of that, say 50% of those royalties, they're getting $10,000 from that song today. And if they do that 5 times a year, all of a sudden we got a $50,000 base income, and that's consistent, that's sustainable. And because there are people like, essentially what it breaks down to is about 0.003 to 0.004 cents every time someone listens to a song.
Okay.
Right. So, but like a million spins is going to equate to around, $3,000 to $4,000.
Okay. So if someone invests in one of the songs, they're relying on the artist to not give up. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, to some extent, there is that risk there, right? Just like there's I guess any company, you hope it doesn't fail. But there's a lot of things we put in to help mitigate that risk. But yeah, it's so we of course we value the songs from the start. And we call it a lot like fantasy football numbers, but the way that song catalogs are currently being sold, because they are. So like right now, you might have heard of Bob Dylan or Bruce Springsteen selling all of their songs, selling their song catalogs to investors. And they're selling them for like $500 million. I mean, these are crazy, huge deals, but they're only being sold to institutional investors. So the way that they value that is they look at the past 3 years average. Okay, like, so how much is this song making over the past 3 years? Then they project it out over multiples. And they say, okay, how much? So then we look over 20 to 30 years. If it's at that average, what will it earn over the next 20 to 30 years? And then that's the price of the catalog. Now, obviously, they have a whole lot more history and a whole lot more to go with on that than a lot of the artists that we're working with, because we're trying to make a platform that's great for the newer indie artists all the way up to that major label artist. Makes sense. And so we look out at about a 10-year projection. And then we also take another factor such as their touring history. We can look at like where they're also their plans, their future touring plans, who's on their team, what past projects have they done. We have a song discovery ranking mode that uses rewards to rank songs anonymously. And then that helps us know, one, if it's even a good song or not and how it's hitting with people. So that goes into the algorithm. All those things come together to give us basically that fantasy sports number. And so who knows, we think, Ronaldo is going to get 2 goals, next pitch, but who really knows? We don't. He could, break a leg and be gone. I hope that doesn't happen because he's a fun player to watch, but and that would suck. But he might get 4. You never know what's going to happen there. And so once they get that number, the artist still gets to choose. Okay, I see the price, I see the valuation, the estimate. Now I choose what I'm willing to sell this song for, and then the fan will see our valuation. They'll see the price that artist is asking. They're going to see a confidence meter, how much data went into this number. And they're going to see one other really important thing. And that's how many spins, like on Spotify, for example, would it take for me to get a 10% APR or a 20% APR or whatever I'm hoping for. So they can have more of a realistic expectation. Like, okay, do I think this song can get that this year? And so for a lot of artists, this is our fans, this could be a great, because what if you could have, found Ed Sheeran back when he was playing house shows, and invested in those songs back then? I mean, you'd have a crazy return on that stuff.
I guess with this though, if you're a fan, it's very hard to know, like your proxy for knowing who's a good artist to invest in is to say, these are people who I listen to myself, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you listen to a lot of new artists, you'll say, okay, I like these 10 artists. I'll invest like $500 in each one or something? Is it something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. You hear him at a show and and that artist says, "Hey, if you love that song, you can actually own part of it. Here's a QR code," and you're like, "Oh man, that was a great performer. That was a great song. I can totally see that going somewhere. What it's costing me $10 right now to get this part.
And do you make sure
Great.
they get a fair price by giving
Um,
showing your algorithm what you think is a fair price? Is that correct?
exactly. And then we let
Ah,
them make that call, right?
mm,
Because it is an algorithm. So and there's a lot of X factors. And so
mm,
at the end, it comes down to the fan being like, yeah, I believe in this and I know where this is going, or that's a bargain. And they'll be able to see the data that supports. But one other really cool thing that we have that nobody else
mm,
has touched yet,
mm,
and that I think is really important for actually making it investable,
mm,
to where, hey, this actually can make
mm,
sense for me, is we have song mutual funds that we
mm.
call curated collections.
Oh
So
wow.
instead of putting your $10 into one song, you can put your $10 into 100 songs curated by
Mm,
somebody who is a music nerd or a
mm,
music blogger, or it could be you. If you're that person, if you're someone that loves and is great at picking songs, and you show that track record, people can choose to invest into your fund. And what's really cool about that is that curator, whoever puts together that fund, earns 5% of the royalties that come
Oh, so
in,
it's like a record
kind of a
label, yeah?
management.
So you could be
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
record label on your platform. Okay. So I'm assuming that then your strategy is to start off with as many indie or individual artists and indie labels, like music makers as you can, or songwriters, and then slowly you can build up the stack, and then you might even eventually like get well-known names. Either the people who you've brought on become well-known names, or people who are well-known names might also say this is a good model for me. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually accelerated way quicker than I thought it would. Because we were initially going for the indie artists because that was kind of our world, and
Mm,
we've found some really great success pretty quickly from that.
mm,
Me and some of our first signers were like Jonah Baker, who's got 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify all the
mm,
time. A lot of your listeners might
mm,
know him from YouTube, or like Megan Davies has 750 million spins,
mm.
1.5 million subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, I saw you have
Yeah.
some quite popular groups when I looked at your
Mhm.
website, some of the artists you've got. And because the thing is, it wouldn't let me download your app here in Europe for some reason. So,
Oh, it's not live yet. We go live the end of this year.
oh,
So,
okay.
yep,
So,
yep.
is it like a private beta at the moment that that? But then, how do you get it?
Yeah.
So, is it private for certain people to actually use the app to listen to things and invest?
Yeah, we've been building for about a year. So we're getting close. We're projecting to be live by the end of this year.
Mm,
So a lot of the tech, unlike most of the stuff that's happening in the Web3 world,
mm,
it's all about the tech and how you know uh, brilliant coding, brilliant new ideas
mm,
and ways to use that and
mm,
use that blockchain. Our tech portion is not that complicated. The most complicated part for us is all the rights management, all the partnerships, all the legal things. So we're also, every single song with us
mm.
is a registered security with the SEC.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
Okay.
and that was a giant piece to figure out, right? Because when you're talking about people's long-term future income, you have to make sure you're going to be around for a long time, that's
Mm,
protected, and that it's done
mm,
right.
mm,
And we're unfortunately starting to see the results of some of those of shorter cuts, and just things outside of people's control. But so we work with a broker dealer in the U.S. named the Downmore Group, and there's a special regulation that we have that we're able to cost effectively and make it scalable to
mm.
make songs register securities.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, that's something I've heard, that it's actually the management of the digital music rights that's the hardest thing to manage in a lot of this. And so
Yeah,
you're doing that by registering with the SEC. So saying these are like stocks. So I'm trying to figure out where the crypto part will come in then, because
hmm,
when, like, if you look at something like, if you look at NFTs for images, like
hmm,
you say, look at OpenSea and Mintable, you can view the NFTs for one platform on the other. But with yours, when someone becomes part of your platform, just say like you'll have LabelCoin, just say Spotify decides to compete with you directly and make Spotify music, digital music or something. Will artists be able to um like switch from your platform to theirs and vice versa, or how does it? Because that's one of the promises
Mhm.
of using crypto for NFTs and music and digital rights. It's easy to switch platforms.
Yeah, there's two parts to that. I mean, first off, where we tie in uh, on the money side, the royalties that are coming, because that is a complicated world, and it's I won't go too deeply into it because even a
Mm,
lot of artists don't understand how this
mm,
works. But essentially, the money gets kind of split into two buckets, and one of those you have to collect almost exclusively through like a what's called a PRO, or performance rights
mm,
organization, and that's for the songwriting composition portion. And then the other side is that the master recording, or it's the people whoever paid to have that recorded, is
mm,
basically they own that portion. And that's 80% of what like Spotify pays out is like that amount.
mm,
And so what happens if an artist wants to put their music onto Spotify? They typically go through what's called a distributor,
mm,
and they upload their songs. They create a unique ISRC code,
mm,
International Standard Recording Code, and that identifies that song across all digital spaces, and all those different aspects. Then that distributor pushes it out to what we call DSPs, digital service providers, which are the
mm,
Spotify's, the Apple Music's, the YouTubes, those
mm,
places there. And then the distributor collects from those people whenever it's played. They say, okay, you
mm,
owe us this money because you agreed on this contract. Then they pay that back to the artist. So we tie in with that distributor. So
mm,
if an artist says, I want to sell 10% of my digital streaming rights to this song,
mm,
then we get a 10% split with the distributor. So the distributor knows, okay, now when that money comes from over here, 10% of that goes straight to LabelCoin. And then we pay that out to the song holders.
mm,
So it's very simple, very seamless, and it protects the investors.
mm,
Also keeps the artists having to do mundane stuff. But so that's how that portion's handled. But then on like the Web3 side, of course, like if Spotify wanted to do it, I mean, I don't think they seem to be going more on the cooperative route. Like, what we saw like with Steve Aoki, like they were just let him basically list his NFTs inside of his profile. And so they're starting to explore things like that. We hope for that kind of integration. That would be awesome. Don't
mm.
have to have that. But like if Spotify was to do it, for example, then I'd imagine that they would only be able to sell what they're earning from Spotify, and
Mm.
not like all these other platforms. And so it would be confusing. But you couldn't sell the same rights on two platforms. If I sell my 10% over on LabelCoin, I only now own 90%. So therefore, I can't resell that 10% because it's already been sold.
But
Um,
is it being
so
sold as an NFT? This is what I'm trying to figure out, or is it?
Oh no. So the way that we do that is through smart contracts.
Mm,
So we actually issue essentially a token that's like but it's not non-fungible. Every token is the same for that song.
is it like an
So
Ethereum or a Matic smart contract? You're saying that has a
yeah,
logic there.
yeah,
Okay.
right. We're talking to 4 blockchains right now. We've gone through a 6-month consulting period, and
Mm,
we're about to make that final decision on which
mm,
one we're building on.
mm,
And so what happens is for every, say if an artist wants to sell at 10% for
mm,
$10,000, just
mm,
to make it simple,
mm,
we issue one note, is what we call the song shares.
mm,
We issue one note for every $10 worth that they're selling.
mm,
So if they're selling 10,000, that'd be 1,000 notes that are
mm,
issued, but it's still fully fractionized, like
mm,
like Sats and
mm,
Bitcoin.
mm,
You can own 0.1 of a note if you want to.
mm,
And that's important because we want it to be investable to the average fan. We never want people to be priced out. We want anybody to be able to buy, whether
mm,
they have $5 or $10, so they can be a part of what's going on. And so that's all done within our app.
mm,
So the buying, the selling, the trading, the exchanging, the custodial, we work with quite a number of people. It's crazy how many things happen in those transactions,
mm,
right? That you have
mm,
to, that for the person, they just put in their credit card or
mm,
connect their crypto wallet, and boom,
mm,
they've bought it. Now they own notes and they start earning royalties, and then they can resell it in our app. For us, there's a whole lot more that happens behind the scenes under the
mm,
hood. So that's that portion. That's how we handle that. Versus like Royal, just because they're the most well known. They got $50 million from their last seed round, which was led by Paradigm, the Coinbase fund. So they're large for that reason. But they're going more of that traditional NFT scarcity model,
mm,
which there's cool stuff there. I'm not knocking that at all. It's a strategy. But if you only issue 100 or 1,000, NFTs total, and especially for those major artists, and it's costing you $1,000 or thousands of dollars per NFT, that really prices out most fans, right?
Oh yeah, because you have to buy the whole thing. You're saying, not instead of shares that you
Yeah.
get. So what I'm understanding is you're saying that, well, and also from what I know with how NFTs work, is
Mhm.
at the moment a lot of the stuff is centralized, but you're moving to using smart contracts to allow the like fractional ownership of music rights. And I do realize, I mean, I'm trying to give you a hard time back. Is it all crypto? And I realize that no one's actually there yet with music, because it's much more complex than how NFTs have been done so far. Because now suddenly you have to, like, if you put everything in a smart contract, then it opens up a lot of other issues as well, because then everyone has to be plugged. For example, a lot of people who buy this music, like if they want to interact with you, they might not want to have MetaMask installed, you know.
Right, exactly.
They
Exactly.
might just
And
want to
it might
deal with,
even, yeah.
yeah. So
Might not
I
even know
do,
what MetaMask is.
yeah. I mean,
And
most people don't know
yeah,
what MetaMask is at all, so they'd rather just
yeah.
pay with US dollars. So, so even though people, us techies like the idea of decentralization, a lot of normal people hate the idea. They just want to have a service, and they want it to be convenient. They don't want to have to remember all of their keys and everything.
Yeah, and if you're at a concert and you decide you want to buy a song, do you really want to write down 12 seed phrases to that point and like try to remember what's
No,
going
you
on?
don't.
What do you do? Like, no, I just want to enjoy this song. Just let me buy this in 30 seconds and be done.
That is starting to
But
change, by the way. That is, because now Solana phone is coming
yeah,
out where it will be built in. So you're going
yeah.
to start getting Android phones where you'll be at a concert and you can just pay your crypto. But then you will
Yeah.
end up in a weird situation where someone won't have access because they've got an iPhone.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we'll see that wider adoption into other systems like iOS, and I think it's very exciting where we're going, but also working with what we've got now. And so I think
Yeah.
this is going to be a great bridge for a lot of people coming into crypto for the first time, where they don't have to know what they're doing initially,
Mm,
but it creates options, and that's part of why we built on this foundation too, because like in our second phase,
mm,
we actually do want to tie in NFTs into several different
mm,
ways.
mm,
One of them, of course, is just an aggregated marketplace under that artist profile. So it's like,
mm,
hey, if I have my NFTs currently listed under OpenSea for these different things, such as fan memberships or
mm,
merch discounts or backstage passes, whatever it might be,
mm,
that you can still find them in one spot.
mm,
But we will have NFT minting as well.
mm,
For perks and things that can be tied to, for example, to no ownership. So, hey,
mm,
if maybe you own 100 notes of one of my songs, and I want to reward you by minting an NFT, allowing you to mint an NFT that gives you that merch discount or that
mm,
backstage pass or that
mm,
meet and greet or whatever that thing could be,
mm,
and create those. But we're also wanting to go into NFT concert tickets, or
Oh
integrate with
yeah,
a
that's very
concert ticket
interesting. Yeah.
partner. I think that there's so much there that makes a ton of sense. But one of our big goals for that is to make concerts and tours investable to the average fan. So
Mm,
imagine that you're able to actually own part of a concert. So especially like once you get to mid-tier to larger tier
mm,
concerts, those are put on by what we call promoters.
mm,
And so what a promoter does is they buy a set number of shows
mm,
from an artist or from their
mm,
booking agent.
mm,
And they say, I'm going to book this artist. Here's how much I'm going to pay you right now.
mm,
And then we're going to do a split. So he's like, so I'll pay, $100,000 for these 10 shows. And then I'm going to get 50% of the ticket sales on top of that after
mm,
it's recouped, and you're going to get the other 50% if more of those
mm,
are sold. And so there's a lot of deals like that happen. And so what would happen if the fans can actually be the ones that are the promoters in
mm,
that sense, to where they're able to invest into concerts and then they're earning in the profits of that. You have an automatic street team as an artist. You
mm,
have like funds, you have tours paid up front so that you're not putting money out of pocket until
mm.
you get there. And it's just a really cool new experience for fans as well.
But isn't that?
So,
But if you start as someone who produces music, if you try and set up a concert and people invest in that, does that require you to register with the SEC as well?
um, so there is like KYC AML that does have to happen.
Mm,
There's no way really around that right now, and it's just
So you can't
you're doing
have
things at this scale.
MetaMask users just doing stuff without showing a photo.
Yeah, not at this point. And who knows what's going to happen with legislation, where we're going there. We're kind of having to work with the hands that we're given to make cool stuff. So and I think that we're going to see more and more. I think there will be opportunities for things like DIDs, and as that becomes
that's
as that
decentralized
progresses.
identifiers for
Yeah, exactly. So I think we could see potential future legislation that recognizes DIDs, where people don't have to give up their privacy, or at least to as wide number of people. But for right now, anyways, we just have to. You're talking securities, KYC, AML is kind of a must for the US, anyways.
Sure.
So.
Okay. So now can we talk about like the progress of the company? So actually, firstly, how are you funding all this? Is this all self-funded, or are you venture capital funded, or and how many people are there in your company? Where are you based? Stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. So we started out as myself with two co-founders, myself and Chad Peterson. So I came from the music side I told you about, and then I started an artist agency, so representing a lot of artists that were on like The Voice or American Idol or shows like that, and helping them succeed. And so that's for the past like almost 7 years we've had that agency as well. And so that's our wheelhouse. And then on the other side, Chad Peterson comes from Wall Street, so he was an investment banker and a VC investor doing those types of things. So he's the ones who's been building our algorithms, doing a lot of the trading side, figuring out how this all works on that side. And then we had a third co-founder come on board. So there's three of us total on the co-founding side. John Platalero, who built the first music SaaS platform, so software as a service for music, almost 20 years ago, called eventbooking.com. And he sold that last year, exited, and he worked with a lot of other top music execs in the world and I won't drop all the names here on that because it probably won't be as familiar to most of the audience here in the crypto world, but he also put in the first $100,000 to get us launched and rolling. And then we've raised some pre-seed money since then, where there's a few more people that are putting in a little bit more pre-seed right now, but we're about to go into our seed round, which will be a $3 to $5 million raise. And
is it just dollars, or is it
months.
a token as well?
It's just we're doing equity. We're selling equity right now. We chose not to do a token on an exchange or go the ICO route because of regulation, what we're seeing, but also because of volatility. Our blockchain consulting company, really helped us with that. Rewired One. And so they're actually based in the UK, the US, and Australia. So they're kind of across the map. But they helped us structure it in such a way that, like, that's one of the problems right now that people are running into with music NFTs, and all NFTs across the board, but especially music NFTs, where songs are being sold or listed in ETH, right? And so when the ETH price is jumping up, that's great for the artists, and then the fan, if the hype's there, they'll still buy it in there. It's not as great of a purchase for them. When it drops down like we see now, it's like, oh shoot, the artist was selling this for $5,000. Now they're selling for $2,000 essentially. So like, I wanted to make more off that.
So a lot of people are just saying USDC or something.
So it's so that's a great way to do it too on that side. But we didn't want to have that volatility for something that's an asset that has this much real world, like clear tied value from like royalties that are coming in, and that you're able to say, okay, we can base our price off of what's happening here, and then you can of course convert it, and then you can accept your money in crypto or move over into these different spaces. But that just kind of helps protect the system as a whole. For us, that's the way that we chose to go about it.
Okay, so I can see. So really, where you want to go to is to be a kind of mix of Robinhood and OpenSea. Have some of so you've got people get into it just via normal payment rails, and they maybe and slowly you're introducing crypto into it as as the standards evolve for music. So okay. So where do you see like like, of course, I mean, with what you're doing, you have a vision for where the industry is going to be. But so if you're like, I know your tagline is to eliminate artist poverty. So how do you see things will be different for someone? Like, let's just take
Mm.
in 5 years' time, if you're an artist and you really don't, and you're good at making music and you can write some songs. What would the steps be? Because at the moment, they'd have to go and maybe form a band, book venues, do all this stuff which they hate to do. So, where do you see that? What will have changed in 5 years' time?
Totally. Like, there's something we put it on our website. It's like, what do 98% of artists have in common? A second job. They
Yeah,
all have to they all have to do something else to survive, and they get home and they hope they have enough energy at 7 p.m. to write a new great song or hit the studio, record something, go play a show. And that's why the burnout rate is so high.
mm, mm,
So I hope that we've helped in 5 years time. I hope we've helped tens of thousands of artists be
mm,
able to quit those other jobs and be
mm,
earning full time what they're doing. I hope we've helped hundreds of thousands of fans
mm,
engage with new ways with their artists and
mm,
actually be making profit on their
mm,
investments.
mm,
Um, I hope that we've changed that narrative and raised the value of music
mm,
to where, hey, this is something that we value as a society, and we've helped create a way for it to make it profitable, not for the sake of because it's all about the money, but because that's where long-term stability, sustainability is. If you're not profitable, you can't be around for very long. And so we're hoping to change that for artists so they can keep doing what they're made to do.
mm,
And then they can also hire teams and have the freedom to say, okay, there's still value in a label.
mm,
Um, because a label brings a team of experience and people on all kinds of different avenues that an artist won't have naturally.
mm,
Most won't. Most artists who succeed now succeed because they're good at business or they're good at marketing or probably both.
mm,
And so, so this opens it up for people that are just great at creating amazing music and
mm,
performing it and really connecting us and giving us soundtracks that we live by.
mm.
That's and so helping those people keep doing that and have the money to hire their own team or leverage for a better label deal or whatever that might be. That's where we hope to go.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that as a vision because, yeah, yeah. I mean, basically, artists, you're right. They just want to create. They just want to create stuff. So, at the moment, are you? I know we spoke a bit earlier about it. Are you US based? You're only trialing in the US, or are you going to be? Are you going to be moving to Europe as well, or opening up to artists in Europe soon as too?
Yeah, no, we'll definitely be going global. Right now, all of our team is US based, aside from our blockchain partners.
Mm,
Well, I guess our dev team also Canadian, and one of them is, spends a lot of time in France and things like
mm,
that. But
mm,
so we do have that. We've been talking with different people. Actually, we just presented at a music conference
mm,
called A2IM, Indie Week, which is like the biggest music independent conference in the
mm,
US.
mm,
And we met with a lot of indie labels, a lot of distributors, and a lot of those were global and
mm,
people. And so we're working on really how best to bring this to market in Latin America, in
mm.
Europe, in the UK, different spaces. And so we're excited about that. And so I think it's gonna come pretty quickly. And what is nice is that for the silver lining of our regulation in the US and how intense it can be
Mm.
is that pretty much once you're in line with what's happening in the US, you're good to go for the rest of the world. um,
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
it's yeah. So it's like everyone else like, okay, that they have pretty much the highest regulation and laws that
Mm,
there are. So
mm, mm.
um which no, I'll leave that where it is.
Okay,
But yeah,
okay.
but we do plan to expand, yes. And yes, where we're at, our team, most of our team is between Nashville and Reading, but
Mm,
also like our advisors are different places, our artist council all over
mm.
the map. But between like California and Tennessee in the US is where most of our core team is.
Okay, okay. And as a member of the public, we'll be able to access this around December time, you say?
And that is our goal. We're on target for that right now. So there,
Okay.
or possibly Q1 of 2023. So
Okay, all right, great. Okay, is there any links you'd like to spell out for your service for the people who are on the audio only podcast of where to find you or anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, LabelCoin. So at LabelCoin, where you can find us about
That's
everywhere. Uh,
Label, by the way, not Ellie,
yep.
as I kept doing. So
Yeah,
Label.
yeah, the British spelling is probably different
Yeah,
there. It's yeah,
yeah.
in Canadian, and yeah, LabelCoin. And they can find me on Twitter as well at Music Ally Mark or Musically Mark. And right now we're actually accepting signups for artists. We have artists signing up right now that are helping with the refining features, and then they're part of the beta. They get first access. We'll also be putting our marketing money behind those songs and those artists. And investors will be able to sign up soon too, just to stay in the loop and follow those. But you can follow us on those platforms to know what's happening, because we love it. We see this very much as we're trying to solve a big world problem, right? And so we're not tight-fisted with this. We want to integrate. We want to find partners. We want to find people. We're not trying to burn anyone down or destroy it, blow up the industry. We're as much as possible trying to look after everybody's interests and say, okay, how do we help this make sense for that person, for the fan, for the artist, for all these parts of the music industry and the banking world? How do we, as much as possible, not destroy people's worlds and make it better? And so that's where we're trying to find those solutions. So yeah. So thank you, yeah, so
No,
much
thank you. I
for
like
having
that
me on.
approach. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So,
It's been great to have you. Thanks.
yeah, thanks. It's been a great time to be here. Thanks, Zubair. Take care.